Hello everyone, my name is Geg Northcutt and I'm a columnist writer for the Orion. I'm here talking today with Victoria, who is going to be talking with me about the incidents with the campfire. Victoria, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
So today we'll be talking about something a little bit near and dear to you. I understand that you lost your home during the campfire. Mm-hmm. Is that true?
We did.
Mm-hmm. And do you remember the first week of when the campfire broke out? Do you remember the day of at all? Would you like to recollect for us?
Yes. Fortunately, on that day, I took a sick day because I had a medical appointment, and so did my husband. So we had 3 medical appointments for that day, so I took a sick day.
Sure.
But because otherwise, I would have been at work already when the fire broke. So I remembered being, we were woken up by a phone call from my husband's doctor. Right. And saying that they are canceling the appointment, and I was a little bit upset. I said, why? And it's because they said the doctor's house is about 5 minutes away from the fire, and we said, what fire? And they said, look out the window. And that's when we found out that there was a fire. But we weren't worried because it was in Pulga. It was like there was a freeway. There was a Highway 70 between Pulga and a lot of other towns before it gets to Paradise. Right. Plus, in Paradise, you get fires like 4 times a year at least. Sure. So
it didn't worry you at first?
No, we just turned on TV, we readied our go bag. They say get ready, medicines, put in papers. We know the drill. Yeah. And wait for when they say when your zone is being evacuated. So, yeah.
And what happened after? When did you find out that you had to evacuate?
Well, we were watching TV for updates, and we never got the evacuation order for our zone when the powers went out. So then we don't have any more TV, we don't have any more radio, and when we decided it was time to go because we didn't have any more access to any kind of update, and the skies were getting darker, so we kind of thought it was time to go. So then we.
What time was this?
Around 10:30 in the morning. 10:30 in the morning. So.
And you never saw what happened when the fire actually got to Paradise, did you?
We were fortunate because our route of evacuation was Skyway. And I think the fire first hit the Pence Road area, which was like quite a ways from where our house was. What surprised us though, because we thought we were driving away from the fire, because we thought the fire was at the back of us. But when we got to the entrance of Skyway, the entrance to town, the houses there were burning already. And on both sides of Skyway. And I kept on asking my husband, I said, why are the houses burning here? This is the front of Skyway. We are supposed to be driving away from the fire. Right. So that's all I remember. That's all. I saw fires. I saw houses burning and trees burning.
And I'm pretty sure those images are pretty familiar to you.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And so that's how close the fire was when you evacuated.
Yeah, it wasn't. Our part of Paradise wasn't as chaotic as the other areas. Right. Because I think our area was farthest from the fire when it started. So our exit was a little bit less crazy. And there were still cops on the intersections. They were still directing traffic. So it was slow, but it was moving, and there were no stalls at all. So.
And what were your when did you find out that you had lost your house?
I believe that would be Saturday around 1 o'clock in the afternoon.
Right.
So we got confirmation that we lost the house. So.
And does it still weigh heavy on you as it did then, or?
Yeah, it still does. It is. But maybe it will weigh more later, because right now the focus is to stabilize your life, and that means finding another house to stay in.
Right.
Because after the fire, we were in a hotel for 22 days.
Right.
And then after that, we couldn't find any rentals in Chico that would get a family with a big dog like we have. And that, other than that, there were no inventory at all. There were no places to rent. It's like there's nothing in Chico. There will be a lot of rental places in Red Bluff or in Redding, but I needed to stay close to work. I couldn't commute an hour and a half a day.
Right.
One way.
Yeah.
To go to work when
3 hours of travel.
When operations would start up again in the university, right? So
yeah.
So we were lucky enough to find a trailer through the help of the other staff members at the university, and we were lucky to find a trailer that came with a place to park it in Chico.
Oh, very nice.
So the focus right now, like maybe by choice, we don't want to dwell on what we lost right now, because if we do that, we will not be able to do anything anymore.
Sure.
So because we need to start somewhere again, and
think about what you can do rather than what's already happened. I'm sure
it's gonna be when we have time to think about it, maybe, and it will hit harder. I don't know.
Sure.
So.
Yeah, and thank you. And so you haven't had any even time to grieve since this. Have you had any time to do that?
Here and there, like when we were allowed to go back the first time. So we saw the pictures, but there's nothing like seeing it firsthand.
Right.
But I think saddest also was because we lived in a cul-de-sac. Not one house was left standing on the cul-de-sac, and it was sad to see, because our neighbors were there at the same time too. So it was sad to see them. Hi. So where will you go now? Conversations like that. So where are you now?
Yeah.
So do you plan to rebuild? Do you plan to come back?
Right.
And of everyone we talked with said, no, we're not coming back.
Right.
So that was sad. I think to me it was more sad than losing our house, because it's like you lost your community.
Right.
Your cul-de-sac family for 18 years at least we were there where we lived. So yeah.
And at any point did you feel like giving up and just kind of having this adherence to the grief and to the tragedy? Did it ever feel like it was just going to be too much?
A lot of times.
A lot of times.
But you cannot.
You cannot.
You cannot afford to. But the other than losing the house, what made us feel like giving up was not finding a place.
Right.
To stay.
Right.
Because when you find out your house is gone, so you go into solution mode. So it's gone. So what's the next step?
Right.
Right. So the next step is find a place to stay.
Right.
And that was very frustrating. That made me feel like giving up many, many times, because you almost have to be on the computer watching for any vacancies 24/7.
Right.
So that, because every time if you find something and you call and they say, oh, we just rented it out. or there's a waiting list, or so. But you cannot be on the computer 24/7 because
Right.
you have other things to attend to, like get refills for medication,
Right.
and talk to insurance companies,
Right.
and all that. So there were a lot of times, not necessarily because we lost our
Right.
house, but like we couldn't find a place to live in,
Right.
So
And what do you do to like help get yourself out of the mindset? Was just the forcing yourself back into just you have
just
to
keep
do
on
it out of
going,
necessity?
keep
Yeah.
on going.
Yeah, keep from.
I don't know. I had this funny idea to because we've been using Facebook to update family
Right.
at one time as
Right.
to what's going on.
Right.
Facebook,
Sure.
good old Facebook, right?
Good old Facebook.
Yeah. So, but then I sort of like said I should make this like my diary.
Oh.
So then it would somehow keep me in check from like, feeling like sorry for myself, or
Right.
feeling pity, or, feeling frustrated, because like, I could not let my friends and family feel that I'm giving up.
Right.
I couldn't let them see that.
Right.
So I sort of like, I used Facebook to make me accountable to my family and friends.
Right.
Accountable for, soldiering on.
Right.
So because if nobody knew what I was doing, then it would be easy to just give up and throw in the towel. But
Yeah.
well, I have to keep on doing something because they're waiting for my update.
Yeah.
I have to keep on saying something positive today because I don't want them to worry,
Right.
and I don't want them to pity me, like, oh
Right.
my God, she's falling apart.
Right.
We're too proud too proud about that.
Too proud to do
yeah,
that
so
now.
I said like, okay, I will make myself accountable to my friends and family, accountable for being strong and brave and just moving forward.
Very honorable. Very honorable. Has this? What's the plans for the future? Do you have any plans to rebuild or?
That's difficult because we want to rebuild, but we could not make a decision in a vacuum.
Right.
So nobody could tell us when will the water be drinkable.
Right.
Nobody can tell us when will we be ready to build.
Right.
Because remember, we lost 90% of the town.
Yeah.
So it's difficult to make decisions as far as rebuilding or not
Right.
rebuilding because we don't know
Right.
as to what the plans of the town is. So right now we are still trying to find a place because right now we're in a trailer. We're still trying to find a place to rent or to buy in Chico for now. My husband wants to rebuild. I don't know where I am at with that. But so like right now the plan is just to find another place to live in Chico for now.
Right.
Because it's close to work at least.
Yeah.
Now, rebuilding in Paradise, it will depend on, when, how, we don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
Sure. Has this changed your perspective on how you viewed possessions and the things that like people usually kind of take for granted? Has this like changed your perspective about how you see them?
I've always not been too keen on stuff.
Right.
So that is not what that has not changed for me a lot. Because I think what changed for me was how things can change fast.
Right.
The material possessions, they're just stuff, like except for photos, although I was able to save a lot of them, because
That's good. That's good.
they're digitized and they're in my camera. But what I realize is how fast things can change, just like that.
Right.
We've got our lives planned out. This is our plan in 5 years and then 10 years, and now it's all like let's start from scratch and then
start the journey, and then we'll find out where it goes.
We have to revisit those plans, and I don't think those plans are doable anymore for now. So that's my main takeaway. Like, things can really change really quickly.
Yeah.
So you better do what you can do now. Because I'm those we can do that later. Let's buy good furniture later, or let's wait for this to do this and do that. No,
sure,
things can change.
And is there any sort of remarks that you want to make to any Paradise citizens out there?
Hang in there, like we are all doing. It's going to be a long, tough process. And as we are experiencing, it's not going to be a straight line.
Right.
Sometimes you think you are well on your way, and then something happens and no, we're not. We're not even close to making any progress. So it's up and down. So.
Well, thank you for sharing. I truly do appreciate it, Victoria.